Okay, I think this is recording. Now, those that have listened to the reading of The House of 60 Fathers might well be thinking, I really think there should be another book soon. So, maybe we'll start another one. Now, I'm not going to tell you yet what this one's called, because I don't want to put anybody off by thinking that it's not a book for very clever children and grown-ups. Don't want you to think that it's a book for little tiny babies. No, it's a book for grown-ups and bigger children. And it's about, well, we'll learn as time goes on, because it's going to take a lot of reading. And well, let's see what the author, Charles Kingsley, says at the beginning. Come read me my riddle, each good little man. If you cannot read it, no grown-up folk can. Well, you've only got to look at me, the grey-beard loon, to know that I am a grown-up folk, very grown-up folk. And this is a story. It starts, as all good stories should, with one upon a Tom. One upon a Tom, one upon a Tom. No. Once upon a time. Once upon a time there was a little chimney sweep, and his name was Tom. Because of course, hundreds of years ago, and less, chimneys were swept by sending small children up the chimney. They had to struggle and climb up through the chimney, thereby shaking loose all of the soot that was stuck to the walls of the chimney. That's how you cleaned the chimneys. You sent a little child up. One upon a Tom, once upon a time, there was a little chimney sweep, and his name was Tom. Tom. That is a short name, and you've heard it before, so you will not have much trouble in remembering it. He lived in a great town in the North Country. And of course us in Sheffield like to think we're in the North Country. Although further north, up in York, they probably think, well, those people in Sheffield are quite a long way south still. But no, he lived in the great town in the North Country, where there were plenty of chimneys to sweep and plenty of money for Tom to earn and his master to spend. He could not read nor write, and did not care to do either. And he never washed himself, for there was no water up the court where he lived. He'd never been taught to say his prayers. He'd never heard of God or of Christ, except in words which you have never heard, and which it would have been well if he had never heard. And he cried half his time, and he laughed the other half. He cried when he had to climb the dark flues, that's chimneys. He cried when he had to climb the dark flues, rubbing his poor knees and elbows raw, and when soot got into his eyes, which it did every day in the week, and when his master beat him, which he did every day in the week, and when he had not enough to eat, which happened every day in the week likewise. And he laughed the other half of the day, when he was tossing halfpennies, that's half a penny, when he was tossing halfpennies with the other boys, or playing leapfrog over the posts, or bowling stones at the horses' legs as they trotted by, which last was excellent fun, when there was a wall at hand behind which to hide. As for chimney sweeping, and being hungry, and being beaten, he took all that for the way of the world, like the rain and the snow and the thunder. and stood manfully with his back to it till it was over, as his old donkey did to a hailstorm, and then shook his ears and was as jolly as ever, and thought of the fine times coming when he would be a man and a master sweep, and sit in the public house with a quart of beer. A quart is 2 pints, about a litre. And sit in the public house with a quart of beer and a long pipe, and play cards for silver money, and wear velveteens and ankle jacks, and keep a white bulldog with one grey ear, and carry her puppies in his pocket, just like a man. And he would have apprentices, 1, 2, 3, if he could. Apprentices are young people supposed to be learning their trade with you. You're teaching them everything you know. Chimney sweeps. How he would bully them and knock them about, just as his master did to him, and make them carry home the soot sacks while he rode before them on his donkey with a pipe in his mouth and a flower in his buttonhole, like a king at the head of his army. Yes, there were good times coming, and when his master let him have a pull at the leavings of his beer, Tom was the jolliest boy in the whole town. Excuse me. One day, a smart little groom rode into the court where Tom lived. Tom was just hiding behind a wall to heave half a brick at his horse's legs, as is the custom of that country when they welcome strangers. But the groom saw him and hallooed to him to know where Mr. Grimes, the chimney sweep, lived. Now Mr. Grimes was Tom's own master, and Tom was a good man of business and always civil to customers, so he put down the half brick quietly behind the wall and proceeded to take orders. Mr. Grimes was to come up next morning to Sir John Hartover's at the place, for his old chimney sweep was gone to prison. His old chimney sweep was gone to prison, and the chimneys wanted sweeping. And so he rode away, not giving Tom time to ask what the sweep had gone to prison for, which was a matter of interest to Tom, as he had been in prison once or twice himself. Moreover, the groom looked so very neat and clean, with his drab gaiters, drab breeches, drab jacket, snow white tie with a smart pin in it, and clean, round, ruddy face, that Tom was offended and disgusted at his appearance, and considered him a stuck-up fellow who gave himself airs because he wore smart clothes and other people paid for them, and went behind the wall to fetch the half brick after all, but did not, remembering that he had come in the way of business and was, as it were, under a flag of truce. His master was so delighted at his new customer that he knocked Tom down out of hand, and drank more beer that night than he usually did in 2, in order to be sure of getting up in time the next morning. For the more a man's head aches when he wakes, the more glad he is to turn out and have a breath of fresh air. And when he did get up at 4 the next morning, he knocked Tom down again, in order to teach him, as young gentlemen used to be taught at public schools, that he must be an extra good boy that day, as they were going to a very great house, and might make a very good thing of it, if they could but give satisfaction. Okay, we're going to make this a short session to start with. I wonder. It's quite a big book. It is. It's got a name, the story, that makes you think that it's not anything to do with anything other than small children. But that's not true. Even though there's a picture at the front of the book. We haven't got many pictures. Here's one. I'll show it you now before I stop this first session. There you go, look. There you can see underwater. There's a rather big fish. And what are they doing? At the bottom it says they hugged and kissed each other for ever so long. That doesn't seem like anything to do with chimney sweeps, but there we go. That's it for now.